Well, good morning. Oh, come on, better than that. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, IZEAFest. So I want to spend the next 30 minutes with you on some exciting things. I want to address the elephant in the room right now as it relates to trust. If you look up on the screen, you'll see exactly what people think as it relates to elected officials, right? So if this isn't maybe the best reflection of some of the challenges that we have in business about dealing with trust, I'm not sure what is. But we'll get into that too a little bit later. Let me tell you a little about myself. This is my why. This is my why, my family. My wife, Kim, we've been married now for 27 years and have 4 beautiful children. In fact, I don't get to do this enough when I go out and speak, but she's here today, so I want to ask her to stand up. She's in the back. Wave at everyone, honey. She is my much better half. But at any rate, I also have a passion for martial arts, and because this is the coolest picture anyone's ever taken of me, it's in every slide deck that I have. And I use this because the content that we will discuss this morning finds its place in the faith that I have, the practice that I have in martial arts, but also in 27 years of communications practice as well. And so what my passion is, and that what wakes me up every morning, is that I want to teach and train people to get better results through better relationships with a conscious, mindful, and intentional effort about building trust. And I've had the opportunity to share this message all over the United States and around the world. These 2 pictures on this one are me doing the presentation in China in 2014. And I'd like to introduce, I've got 9 students and young professionals from China with me today that are staying with my wife and I. It's important for us to share the gifts and the blessings that we have here in the United States with people when they want to come and learn about that. So the other picture on this page is where I met Ted Murphy doing some work at Florida BlogCon together. And I want to thank Ted for his vision and his energy and the opportunity to be here and share with you today. So if you guys could give him a hand too, I'd really appreciate that. Now my full-time job, whoops, I went the wrong way, although I love my family. My full-time gig is with Adventist Health Systems. We're the parent company of Florida Hospital, for those of you from this area. How many from Orlando here? All right, welcome. Again, who traveled from out of town? Awesome, welcome to my hometown. I'm glad to have you. But throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work with a number of brands that I'm sure you recognize, and some you don't. And both are equally important because they contribute a lot to what I've done, and I'm very grateful for the people that I've had a chance to work with. I want to share with you as well, I had the opportunity just this year to get a Lifetime Achievement Award from Trust Across America for the work that I'm going to share with you today. And I get to share that honor with some really cool people like Stephen Covey and others. And so let's take this journey. We're all about content. Some of us are providers of that content. Some of us are the makers of that content. It's all about communication. Every time we communicate, our primary intent should be to build trust with somebody. You heard the research yesterday. Consistently throughout that research, we heard 2 things: trust and credibility. One does not happen without the other. And I want to look at trust from a variety of ways, but from an organic standpoint, I see trust as a living thing. It's a lot like this acorn. You put it in the ground, you take care of it, it grows into a big tree. But more importantly than that, over time, if that tree manifests into what it should be, it defines the horizon for which it stands. And that's all of you. You have an opportunity in your niche, in your space, to define that space. And if you can define it on trust, it will be so much more significant. Now, what I hope to really give you today is a gift. And I want that gift not just to be about business, but to be about life. So trust affects you individually. It affects how you see yourself, how you engage, your family, friends, coworkers, community, and your civic engagement. So let's not look at this with any kind of constraints to it, but how it applies to me individually. Now, I call my program Outrageous Trust, and I do that for an important reason. When you hear that word, it elicits a response, an emotional response, and it also means not average. Because when it comes to relationships and trust, I don't want average. Average does not work. Average only gets you by, and nobody wants to just get by. So let me begin this with a story. A little bit earlier, you saw my family. I have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. And my girl's the youngest, and this is Faith. And this is the best picture to ever capture her personality, I promise you. Now, this is a few years ago. Faith is now 15, so she knows everything, right? And being the only girl, you know what that means for me, right? Wrapped around the little finger. So 7 or 8 years ago, as I embarked on this journey, and I had just started speaking to groups about trust, I'd landed a big opportunity to talk to a group out in California. It was about a month away. I was getting prepared for it, mentally, all excited. I came home about a few weeks out from the event, and Faith had turned our dining room into a bracelet factory. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about that have little girls, right? It's an OSHA violation. All these little beads that you step on, they get implanted in your foot. But she was so excited. She came up to me and she said, "Hey, Dad, would you wear this bracelet I made for you?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd wear that bracelet." And I got to tell you, it was high quality stuff. Look at this. It's got my name on it. There's a heart in the middle. It meant something. And when your child makes something for you like that, you become what we call technically show and tell. So all weekend, everywhere we went, she was so proud to show this bracelet off. So I got up on Tuesday morning to go to work. I put the suit on. I had a big meeting. The bracelet's on the dresser. I couldn't wait to get back home and see her again. When I got home that night, Kim and I are in the kitchen making dinner. Bracelet factory, by the way, still going full steam. She comes into the kitchen. She's got another bracelet, different colored beads on it, and all I could think of is, I've only got so much arm to give to this cause. She looks at me and she says, "Daddy, if you didn't like the other bracelet, would you wear this one?" It broke my heart. Here I am, the expert in communications, the guy that's going to go to California and teach business people how to build trust and better relationships, and I screwed it up with my 7-year-old little girl. I stood in that kitchen confronted with the idea that I didn't fully appreciate or understand her perspective in what the bracelet was all about. Now, sometimes we're the one that makes the bracelet, and sometimes we're the recipient of the bracelet, but what we have to keep in mind is that we earn the trust with all the little things that we say and do in people's lives. And so I went back in the bedroom, I put the bracelet back on, and I wear it every day, because it reminds me of 2 things. 1, I told her I would, but 2, and most importantly, and what we're going to unpack in the time that we have left with each other today, is that it is all those little things. And we can't look at trust as one big idea. It's a lot of little things that we do and say. And I want to share those things with you because you're going to mess up. I mess up every day. And you're going to get opportunities in life, and as this saying here says, whoever can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And we earn that over time. And so the lesson that my daughter shared with me that day, unintentionally, was that humbleness and humility are the starting point for the kind of trust that really matters as we're building relationships with other people. We're all wired up for relationships. We don't do anything in life great alone. And so as we do this, let's approach this with that idea that we're going to be humble enough to be vulnerable and to understand what that other person's all about. Now, too often people look at trust as some hug fest, touchy-feely idea, but there are results that you get when you have high trust relationships or a high trust culture if you work for an organization. You reduce risks when trust is there. You are able to be more efficient and more effective in the work that happens. People work better together. If you're an employer, your employees stay with you because of that. They want to be part of something where they feel trusted and they feel like trust exists. You get advocacy, not just loyalty from customers, advocacy. When things go bad, you want your customers and the people around you to stand up for you when it's hard. And I did a lot of crisis communications work throughout my career, and my 4 favorite words are benefit of the doubt. When something happens bad, do you have the benefit of the doubt? Will they say, "You know what? I trust them. I'm going to let them fix it, or are they going to leave? And then brand is all about preference. It's all about being that person or organization that somebody chooses. You already measure the things that you need to measure. The question is, are you looking at it through the right lens? And I would argue that you've got to have trust first. In terms of culture, the Ethics Resource Center in 2010 said that increasing trust drives down risk. And when you do that, you set that culture in place. You do the things that matter. You lead by example. People see what's happening. And so we're going to talk about how the changes in the marketplace require us now to even be more intentional about this. Trust is the currency of the marketplace. It is what gets you the opportunities to do things and come back and do them again and be forgiven when you don't do it right. There's been changes in the marketplace. I look at the market like I look at 2004 in Central Florida. Who was here in 2004? We had 4 hurricanes come through the market, right? This is Frances. She was here for about 8 weeks. It changed this community significantly. And life is about the storm. You're either in the middle of it now, coming out of it, or getting ready to go back into it. It never changes. Trust becomes an anchor in the midst of that storm. And the consumers changed. They're much more like a stakeholder. They want more say in the beginning of your engagement. They want to tell you more about how you do things in the midst of it, and they're more demanding on the back end. Everybody has a stronger position in the marketplace, so we have to be stronger in that marketplace as well. And what's changing that? A lot of why we're here. Everybody's a media outlet. Everyone has a stronger voice. Everyone has more reach in what we say and do. So we've got to be better at building that relationship. I'm not going to drone on about statistics, but if you ever get a chance, look at the Edelman Trust Barometer. It tells us a big picture view of what's happening in trust around the world. And you can see that nobody gets a passing grade right now. Business, media, government. Look at the credibility factor. We looked at government officials a minute ago. This shows the opposite end of that spectrum, that only 29% of people feel that they're credible. And when we don't have trust, people feel a sense of injustice, a lack of hope, a lack of confidence. They want change. You are the change agents to make that happen in anything that you do right now. And so here's what I'd like to do. Take a minute and think about the 2 people that you trust the most. You got that in your mind? And now take another minute, and if you've got something to write on, write down the 2 or 3 words that come to mind immediately when you think about that person and why you trust them the most. Now, if you're sitting next to a friend, you might want to hide your answers in case their name's not there. I'm a uniter, not a divider. So what I'd like you to do is somebody yell out one of the words that came to mind. Consistency, loyal, what else? That too. What else? Honest. Loving, family, come on, more. Caring, forgiving. So you guys heard those words, right? I do this everywhere. And I want to tell you first, congratulations, you're all human. And what do I mean by that? I mean what I said earlier is that we're all wired up for relationships. So the answers that I get in Nanjing, China are the same as St. Louis, Missouri, the same in Orlando, Florida. And there's 2 big contributing factors to trust. And a lot of us gravitate to one perhaps more than the other. But the first big bucket is emotion. Emotion has a big impact on where people are going to trust or not trust us initially. And when I think of emotional trust, I think of family, I think of friends, I think of those relationships that are really deep and connecting. The other driver is experience. And so if you look at the 2 in the way we live our daily lives, there's a lot of people that I trust for the experience that I have with them, like vendors who I will hire to do a job over and over and over again because they're the best at it. But I would never trust them with a deep, dark secret. And on the other end of that spectrum, I have friends that I will trust to watch my children, who I will give information to, I won't give any others, but I would never hire them. We call that family. I'm just teasing. Sorry, Mom. You know my parents got to be watching, right? So what we really want to do is get awesome at both. Because in the end, trust is just the belief or perception that people have. It's the assurance that they have in us to know that we are going to be consistent emotionally and experiential. And so no good business presentation comes without a quad, 4 ideas to think about. So what I've tried to do is break it down even further for us. Number 1, as you look at where emotion and experience meet up, is the concept of being trustworthy. Now, trustworthy is different than trusted. Trustworthy is, hey, congratulations, you've earned the right to be trusted. And we're going to talk about what feeds into trustworthiness in just a moment. But up the emotional scale, and you heard this again yesterday in the research, is that people want us to be authentic. They want us to be real. They want to know that we're consistent in that presence of who we are. On the experience side of it, they want to know that we're dependable. That when we say we do something, we are going to do that thing. And we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it better. And the 4th is sort of the outlier in the mix here. And this is the one that will be the real difference maker when we get to it. And that's influence. Isn't that what we're talking about here? That ability to transcend a specific thing that you do or a job that you do, to have influence on the community that you serve, whether that's geographically or otherwise. And so let's unpack some of this. So I want to package each of these 4 things into 4 guiding principles for you. And the first one is this: be trustworthy and take responsibility for your relationships. That sounds simple, but a lot of times we assume way too much in a relationship. We allow our own self-perception to not be deep or honest enough to ask the question, do they trust us? Do they trust me? And why? Have I earned that trust? You don't get it by just showing up. You have to be more engaged than that. There's 8 ideas that trustworthy people hold out in front at all times. Number 1 is integrity. If we can't get past this one, we'll just stop at this point. You have to have integrity to be trustworthy. You have to be willing to do the right thing even when no one else is looking. You have to have a moral compass and a center. You have to have accountability in what you do. Now, the other side of integrity says that there's a consistency in the things that you do, and it's like everything else that we want to grade. How consistent are you in that behavior? So integrity has that first contact point with people, and it's the thing that's going to really either enhance or hurt the relationship. Second attribute is attitude. Attitude determines how people are going to trust us. It's the first thing people see when they engage with us. It's the first experience people have with us. It's what determines what you're going to tip the waiter or waitress at dinner. Because it says, you're important to me. I'm engaged with you. John Maxwell, in his book, The Difference Maker, which everyone should read, spends its entire time discussing the importance of attitude and how it impacts both what we do and what people around us do. And you know what? It's really the only thing you control at the end of the day. You can't control anyone else. You can't control the weather. You can't control the market. You can't control the customer, but you can control your attitude. And that filter can determine how you respond appropriately or inappropriately. The third idea is focus. People want to know that you're focused on the most important thing right now, and that's usually what they're worried about. So we have to be better listeners. We have to be more engaged. We have to hear what they're telling us, not just wait for the opportunity to speak. We have to come back to them with the work that they've defined as most important. The next attribute is initiative. Trustworthy people don't wait for somebody else to tell them to do something. They solve the problem now. They don't leave it. They don't wait for it. They go out and get it. Those of you in the room that are entrepreneurs, you are the example of initiative. You are the ones making a new way. That's the model that we should look at when we think about making a difference in that regard. Insight. Are you a lifelong learner? Trustworthy people are the ones who don't have their hand up the whole time in a meeting. They're the ones at the end of the meeting that the leader says, "What do you think?" Because they're investing time and energy in becoming better people, not just better at business. So I would ask this question: do you have a mentor? Are you engaged with people on accountability levels? And are you a voracious reader of information? Be a lifelong learner. It sets you apart. It adds a dimension of value into whether somebody's going to see you as trustworthy. Trustworthy people practice perseverance. Somebody who wants to trust you, they want to know that you're going to be there when times get tough and not cut and run when it doesn't. They want to know that you're going to be there consistently when things are difficult. Trustworthy people do excellent work. They do their best work first. They don't slack off. They don't let up. And then lastly, trustworthy people live with a sense of vision, something bigger than themselves, and they bring others along with them in that vision and what they do. The second guiding principle, I want you to be authentic and build trust from the inside out. If you don't get it right in here, it doesn't happen right out here. People want to know that you're talking with them, not at them. They want to know that you're not too made up. They want to know that you've got the personal experience in what happens. Authentic people understand their purpose. What is your purpose? What is it that you're here to do? Purpose is a great grounding instrument. If you understand your purpose, you are consistent in the way you behave, in the things that you do, and that consistency contributes to such a high level of engagement with other people. You're not wishy-washy. You're not doing one thing one day, one thing the next. You're not going to give this up tomorrow to go do this other thing because you're grounded in an idea that says, this is the thing that I am about. Authentic people are present in their relationships. Digital is great, personal is better. You want to build the kind of relationships where people have that connection with you. I'll never forget earlier in my career when I was director of communications for a pretty big organization, I had two people having an argument on email. The really sad part was they sat in cubicles almost next to one another. So I grabbed them both, pulled them in my office, and I said, we're going to fix this right now, right? How often does that happen, though? How often do we not take the opportunity to get face-to-face with someone when we could? Make that time. Respect everyone. You don't have to agree. In fact, you can argue with people day in and day out. That makes for good decisions. But what happens is oftentimes we don't let them leave with their dignity because we win the argument too bad. Not that that happens on Facebook or anything. Respect everyone, always. Cultivate candor in your relationships. Allow people to speak honestly to you. Allow people around you. Set up accountability groups. Make sure that people are telling you the truth, because the minute they stop doing that, you're going to run off the road. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after I get through these other two. Authentic people exercise forgiveness. The spiritual side is important when you talk about forgiveness, but I want to talk about the practical side of it. Do not let what others do dictate who you are. When you're hurt by somebody else, it hurts. It's real. Learn from that. Grow from that. Adjust what you need to adjust, but don't let it hold you back. Let it go. Let's all sing the song. Nope, let's not. Yes, I have a daughter. And then lastly, the really cool thing about authentic people is that they're transparent. Bless you. What you say should be what you do. How do your actions manifest from the words that you use? Are they consistent? Is there transparency in your operation? I talked earlier about candor. This is the Johari window. Anyone seen this before? So I learned about this in college, and it's really an awesome device to think about the engagement you have with people. So you can see that in the upper corner, it says known to self and known to others. That's your public self or the arena. So if I Google you, that's what I find out. Not known to others, but known to self, that's the facade or really kind of my private self. Those are all the things that you can talk to my wife about that I do that I don't want you to know about. And then there's the not known to self but known to others, the blind spot. That's what I want to land on. We all have them. There's things that you do right now every day that irritate other people. There's things you do every day that are big potholes in the way you function. You need people around you to say, hey, you're making a mistake, you need to change that. Hey, you're about to jeopardize your relationship with so-and-so, you need to switch that. I've been very fortunate my entire career to have people around me that tell me the truth, and sometimes it hurts pretty bad, but it gets me on course. I was part of a bank board at one point in my life, and it was a big opportunity for me. I'm sitting in the first meeting, and it correlated with when I got my first BlackBerry. Remember BlackBerry? And we all became addicted to that, like this. Not that that's changed, but on that first week I had it, I learned that I could actually solve problems over that. And I'm sitting in that bank board meeting solving a client's problem. I think I'm doing the right thing, but I'm completely disengaged from the meeting. I get back to my office and one of my employees, someone who works for me, comes in my office and says, hey, how was the board meeting? I said, oh, it was great. She goes, how do you know? I'm like, what? She said, yeah, I got a phone call that you were totally disengaged. Well, I had two choices at that point. I could tell her to get out of my office, or I could fix it. So I called every member of the board and I apologized. And that's all warm and fuzzy, but I got a contract from somebody on that bank board a few years later that I know I would not have gotten had the only thing they had ever seen of me been that guy that was disengaged at the meeting. The next thing is that you need to be dependable and communicate consistently. This is about performance. You need to be fully engaged in the work that you do. You need to deliver on time or early. You need to give a consistent, reliable performance, and you need to evaluate what you do on a daily basis. If it's not worth measuring, it's not worth doing. The last thing I want to share with you guys is this idea, and that is you need to be influential and a good steward with your trust. You need to hold others accountable to the same ideas that we're talking about for ourselves. People of influence do hard things. They fight for the things most important. As Dr. King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Where do you stand when things get difficult? Are you in the right place? People of influence do the following things. They choose to contribute, they're decisive, and they fight for what's important. They make a physical or a public commitment to the change they're going to make. They confront the good, the bad, and the ugly. Jim Collins in Good to Great writes about the fact that companies that do this see things that get in the way quicker and adjust better. They find the competence to do the work, so be humble enough to ask for help when you want to make a difference. Find the right people, or go get the education you need. You're here now because you're looking for that competence. Thank you, congratulations. That will help you be more influential. And then lastly, people of influence have the courage to finish. Jefferson said, one man with courage is the majority. One person can make a difference. The thing I want to encourage all of you to do is a few things. Number one, follow these principles. If I have one promise to you today, it's that if you activate these ideas in your life right now, you will see a difference immediately. It may not be in a relationship that you've got conflict over. It may not change the world with what you do, but it will influence one person to do something different and better. And when you act and change the way, when you're intentional about trust, when you're the person driving relationships, it affects everybody around you. It changes the way people see things. The other thing I want to encourage you to think about is this is your legacy. This is the thing that will last long before, long after you're gone. And the other thing I want to encourage you to do is to build a monument to this in some way. I wear this bracelet as a monument to the idea of trust that began with that mistake that I made with my daughter. I mess this up every day. I stand before you as somebody who is going to walk out of this room and I'm going to miss something. And it's not the question of if we're going to mistake, it's when we make a mistake and how do we rectify and fix it. I work with companies all the time. A lot of times what I'll do with that company is I'll have them build a contract among leadership, build 10 ideas spoken in their voice, in their language for their company to live by, and say, these are the principles that we're going to act on with one another to build a culture of trust among ourselves, with our employees, with our customers, and in our organization. Think about what it is that you look to on a daily basis that says, I am committed to richer, more fulfilling, productive, and profitable relationships because I'm building them first on trust and then cultivating them accordingly. I want to thank you for your time this morning, and I hope everything that you're after comes through. Thank you so much.